Access to Democracy is made possible by donations from the following organizations. Thomson Reuters, a global company with expertise and insight to unravel complex situations in the areas of law, tax, compliance, government, and media. Their worldwide network of journalists and editors keep customers up to speed on relevant global events. Thomson Reuters, the Answer Company. The Division Championship Minnesota Twins are looking to go all the way to the World Series in 2024. Bolstered by inspirational shortstop Carlos Correa, a healthy Brian Buxton, and rookie phenom Royce Lewis, plus a pitching staff led by Pablo Lopez and an outstanding bullpen featuring Johan Duran, the Twins are the best bargain in the major leagues, and Target Field is the best venue in baseball. Sheridan Dulas & Kins, PA, a family and criminal defense law firm, has been serving clients in Dakota County and throughout Minnesota for over 40 years. Ranked a Tier 1 Best Law Firm by U.S. News and World Report every year since 2009, Sheridan Dulas & Kins are here to help you in your most difficult life circumstances. Established in 2007, 45th Parallel Spirits was among the first 50 micro-distilleries in the United States. Based in New Richmond, Wisconsin, all aspects of production occur at our facility. If you're interested in visiting and learning more about the 45th Parallel Distillery, please check our website and plan a visit to tour our facility and taste our spirits. Truestone Financial, with locations in Minnesota and Wisconsin, has proudly served its members since 1939. Truestone engages, educates, and supports its members to ensure they have the tools to empower their financial well-being. Truestone Financial, your neighborhood credit union. Learn more at truestone.org.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Access to Democracy. I'm your host, Steve Francisco. Thank you for joining us today. It's a real pleasure to welcome back to our studio our friend Dakota County Commissioner, Chairman of the County Board of Commissioners, Joe Atkins. Joe, welcome back to Access to Democracy.
Thanks, Steve. It's always a pleasure to join you.
So I'd like to ask you, first of all, you have a little bit of experience in public life. You were elected, I understand, at the ripe age of 21. You were the youngest school board member in the country. Do I have that correct?
That was just 3 years ago. No,
Not quite.
I actually had dark hair at that time. Yeah, I was on the school board from age 21 to 24 and retired, actually, from politics.
In Inver Grove Heights.
In Inver Grove Heights,
Right.
The school board there, actually with Paul Anderson, who went on to the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. I literally took Paul's seat. He had retired from the school board. I got elected to that spot and sat in his very chair, which I'm still honored to say.
Those are good credentials to have. And after your service on the school board, you were elected mayor of Inver Grove Heights.
Yeah, and that, again, at the grand old age of 26, still didn't know what I was doing, but got elected mayor and did that for a
Just
decade.
An early overachiever, I guess. And then how many terms in the state legislature?
7.
7 terms, so a good chunk of time spent up in St. Paul. And I guess one could say that's probably pretty good preparation for a role in county government when you've done your time in the state legislature.
You know, I always tell folks, county is, even though oftentimes the number one question I get is, what does the county do? Mm-hmm. But county government has more impact on people's daily lives than just about any other level of government. And so it helps to have come with school and city and state background, because I can be one-stop shopping for folks when they come to the county.
Right.
And it's for folks that are in crisis. It's for folks that use our county roads or county parks or county libraries. Or if you get in a little trouble and you go to the county jail, or we prosecute all of the felonies all across
through the county attorney's office.
Through the county attorney's office. So there's a huge amount of daily impact. And yet we're kind of like there used to be an insurance company that wanted to be the quiet company. I don't remember who that was. But we take that same approach at the county level. Our job, we just want to get the work done. Mm-hmm. We don't, pound our chests. We don't trumpet all that we do. We just quietly and successfully and efficiently try to get the work done.
And yet a very vital part of government, local government, which many people are perhaps not as familiar with. You know, when you think of city government, I think here at the city of Eagan where we are, you think about the police department, you think about the fire department, but as you mentioned, the county has a law enforcement function too with the county sheriff.
Yep.
where their jurisdiction crosses or involves all the cities within Dakota County.
All the cities, acutely in the rural areas.
Right, the unincorporated areas.
The incorporated cities tend to be the individual police departments, which is great, but there's all sorts of collaborations that take place. So for example, we operate the 911 service. When you dial 911, that's something that the county is responsible for in collaboration with the cities. If SWAT gets called in, that's a partnership between the county and the cities. We've got an electronic crimes unit. So if some criminal throws their cell phone down the toilet, this literally happened. And our ECU unit was able to take that. He had trashed it, he threw it in the toilet. They found, frankly, it was a child pornography case,
incriminating evidence?
They found all that evidence, and that guy's sitting in prison right now. So those are some of the collaborations that the county and the cities work on together.
Wow, very interesting. So Joe, I want to talk to you about something that I think a lot of viewers may find interesting. Hopefully they do. The county budget, and one of the questions I want to ask you, the county just approved a new budget for 2025. Give us sort of the headline view of what are the key points viewers should know about the new budget that was just approved this past week.
Sure, I'd be happy to. And maybe even taking up to a 30,000 foot view is, I noticed in an odd way, the nation of France just got downgraded in terms of their financial rating from Moody's. Moody's financial rating service, very famous around the world.
Right.
At the same time, Dakota County actually has the highest financial rating of any government entity in the world.
Which is AAA?
AAA, or AA3, or AA3 is what France and some of the others. We're literally AAA rated, which is the highest potential, or highest possible financial rating. It's based on having low debt, paying our bills, but we're literally better rated than 34 states around the country and 180 some odd countries around the world.
And just so people understand your point better, that's sort of like a credit rating. It is essentially a credit rating for government, which affects what the cost is to borrow money, right?
That's exactly right, Steve.
Yeah.
And so that's where
you get a more favorable interest rate than somebody with a lower credit rating.
That's exactly it. And so as a result of that, but also, I mean, we literally paid off all of our debts almost a decade ago now. So we actually haven't had to borrow. If we need to, we will have the highest rating in the world. But we've saved tens of millions of dollars by not having to borrow, tens of millions of dollars in interest. As a result, we're able to apply that towards keeping taxes down, to keeping robust services. But to zero in then on this newest budget, it's $523 million.
For the calendar year
for 2025, that's a combination of operations and capital projects. It's about a 1.2% increase over 2024. Obviously, inflation is greater than that.
Right.
But we've always, in fact, out of the last 5 years, our levy increases have been 0, 0, 1, and 3%. So we try to be pretty good stewards of people's tax dollars. But at the same time, we've got some increasing, so we're a growing county. We're 455,000 people. We're the fastest growing county in Minnesota, third largest, and on pace to pass Ramsey County, which is the second largest. But with that growth comes challenges. So we're part of this budget is we're adding a dozen folks within the county sheriff's department. There's an additional prosecuting attorney that's coming on board. Obviously, as youthful of a county as we are, we still have, right here in Eagan, goes back 6 decades now in terms of how old the community is. Many county roads, for example, we're always trying to make sure that, and we literally go through and score every single road on a score up to 100. And always try to keep our roads in excellent or good shape, but you got to stay on that.
Right.
So there's all kinds of,
sort of like what people have to spend maintaining their home, making sure the roof is in good shape, taking care of infrastructure, basically.
Exactly right.
So what about the property tax levy for the county? How much is it going up for the average homeowner next year?
Typical homeowner will see about $3.30 a month.
Per month.
Per month.
Okay.
And this has been a strange year, though, because what's happened this year is you had a lot of commercial and industrial properties going up significantly in value at the same time that in residential, so single-family homes, have been fairly static, which is different than the last few years. We've seen, the last couple of years, we've seen some very substantial increases in residential properties. So we've had folks taking on a higher share of the property tax burden on the residential side. And I know this gets a little, some folks, they start to nod off when we start talking, but the bottom line is that most of our homeowners saw a much more modest increase, at least in the county share. And keep in mind, the county share is just one piece of it. We're about 17% of people's overall tax bill. The city and the school district and other jurisdictions make up the majority of it.
And it just seems like, looking at historical data, it seems to me that in the past, and you and I have talked previously in interviews, that Dakota County has done a much better job than perhaps some of our surrounding neighboring counties in controlling
Well, if you go back all the way to
costs and budget.
2012, our average property tax levy increase has been 1.16%. So if you want real dollars on the same valued home here in Dakota County versus next door in Ramsey County, it's now $1,000 less per month, 1,001 to be precise, just in the county share. That's not even talking in the city and the school district portions. And no offense, I'm a fan of Ramsey County. I want them to do well, because if Ramsey County does well, it usually takes
reflects well on
it. It does. It helps us, and if they're hurting, generally we're hurting.
So one of the things we wanted to show our viewers too, we're going to be inserting a graph here which shows the funding sources for county government. And just say a word about that, Joe. Where does Dakota County get its revenue from?
Well, first, thank you to our taxpayers, our businesses, our local residents, our homeowners. That's where a significant chunk, the largest chunk, actually comes from. But the state and the feds also tell us a bunch of things they want us to do. We call them mandates.
Right.
And we're required to do those. And some of them, Steve, they even fund, but not all of them. And so we have this group of unfunded mandates, and that's where I turn to our local taxpayers, whether we like it or not. That gets shouldered by our local taxpayers to pay. But the state and the feds, they do contribute some of the funding towards those required services that we have to administer. So those are the three biggies. And then, of course, there's some user fees and some additional revenues.
That bring in some more money.
That bring in. So, for example, we've got our Billsby Dam and some solar and so forth that we've done, which is actually going to make the county some money on the renewable side, because we're generating now. In fact, we're the first county in the country that will generate more electricity from renewable energy sources than all of our county buildings and facilities use.
That's really a significant milestone. And it's about saving money too, reducing the amount of expenditures.
I know that there's climate folks who also, it's something like 4.5 million pounds of greenhouse gas emissions that we are no longer emitting as a result of that's. So from a climate standpoint, it's a real positive as well, but it's also anticipated to make us about $1 million a year.
Win-win.
It's a terrific outcome, yeah.
And so for our viewers as well, we're going to be inserting this graph here in the program about something called the Capital Improvement Program. Tell us about this aspect of county government spending or planning for spending. What is the Capital Improvement Program? What are we talking about there?
Well, and the word capital it connotes it's the roads, it's the facilities, the buildings, the libraries, so that the county roads and so forth, whether we're talking about Pilot Knob or Diffley, which we're in the high school here in Egan, all of those are funded through our Capital Improvement Program. And in order to do that effectively and efficiently, we actually plan out for 5 years ahead, so that you're not just kind of constantly moving around. We have an ongoing plan, but that's a big chunk of our county budget. Of the $523 million county budget, that's about 1/3 of the dollars for 2025.
And just so we're clear about this, Joe, if I understand it correctly from looking at the website, that the Capital Improvement Program, once you come up with a number for this year, it's a 5-year projection, but circumstances change over 5 years. So you revisit this, the CIP program every year in the budgeting process. So numbers could change, projects could be delayed, sometimes maybe even accelerated.
That's the one thing you can always count on, Steve, is there will always be change.
Every year.
It's great to have that 5-year plan, and it really does work to our benefit to approach it that way. But each year is going to be a little bit different. The year ahead, we've got lockdown. We've got that one figured out. After that, though, it's always, there's kind of moving pieces around in order to accommodate whatever the needs may be in the county.
Joe, transportation and transit are always two of the most important issues facing county residents. We have a significant number of people who, they may not even live in Dakota County, but they take transit to come to work in Dakota County at numerous businesses that we have all over Dakota County. The county board recently had scheduled 2 workshops to discuss what the future of public transit will look like here in Dakota County. How can residents provide their views and input in this planning process? And what changes do you see coming in transit in the county in the next few years?
Great question. And there's 7 of us on the county board. And we literally, it surprises people because I answer my own phone. And so I'll get so if folks want to provide input, literally just call. My number is on the website, or it's 438-4430. Give me a call, give me your thoughts on what transit should look like, what transportation needs, how they should be met. We've actually got a plethora of various services that are available on the transit side, which sometimes until you sit down and you start to think through. So we've got bus service through MVT, through Minnesota Valley Transit Authority. We've got bus service through the Met Council, through the MTC. They don't always work together very well. You got one that serves much of the central and western portion, and another that serves the northern and eastern. They're not. So, for example, if you want to go to Inver Hills from Egan, sometimes it can take you 2.5 hours. Because you got to go and connect.
Which discourages people from using the service that the county's helping pay for.
And so we're trying to get all those services to work better together, but we've also got services that provide transportation for people with medical issues, for people with disabilities. And I think largely one of our biggest tasks is going to try to get all of those to work better together. So that there's more efficiencies and more effectiveness. So that if you've got to get someplace, you hit one button or you dial 3 numbers and you're able to get where you want to be. I don't think that we're probably looking, when you go to a larger picture, I don't think we're looking at light rail here in Dakota County, but probably enhanced bus service more. And because of the way that we developed around the car, as opposed to being around the horse, back in so Ramsey and Hennepin, there's parts I suppose that can be served okay with light rail and fixed rail service. We do much better if we have flexible bus service.
And I want to ask you too, Joe, it's no secret that our population is aging. You and I think we're
part of the baby. Not us.
No, we're
we
not.
just
we're
look like
forever
we're
young.
aging.
Yeah.
Right.
But the population is getting older. So how does that aging of Dakota County's population affect transit priorities?
Yeah, well, that's exactly a key issue that we're growing a little bit on both ends. We've got also young families that are moving in, but for the aging population, medical appointments, being able to get to the grocery store, being able to stay independent and remain in your home as long as you possibly can. And oftentimes, so we've got large populations that are no longer able to drive. You reach a certain age, sometimes the doc says, that's it, no more 4 wheels for you.
Yeah.
So that's a key component. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves because we literally have indicated to folks that we really do want to gather their input. We want to hear what they want to do. So you're asking me, Joe, what are you going to do?
I appreciate
and
that.
I'm trying to. I've got certain thoughts on what I think that's going to look like.
But you have some sense of what trends are in transit.
And I think that's going to be a key piece because as people age, and particularly if they want to maintain their independence. And be able to get to the places that, medical appointments in particular, those are the sorts of things where we want to be able to provide so that people can stay in their homes as long as they possibly can.
Right. Joe, I'd like to ask you about natural resources. We're really fortunate here in Dakota County that we have some beautiful landscapes, beautiful natural areas, groundwater areas, freshwater lakes, parks and different things. And tell us about the Dakota County Park System and how the county board looks out for that and maintains the quality of our natural resources here.
And I'm going to expand that a little bit, Steve, because we talk about our parks and our natural areas, the woodlands,
together,
the wetlands. And when you think about Dakota County, it takes you about 5 seconds and you think, what is it that brought you here? What is it that keeps you here? We kind of like having a little elbow room. We like having some trees, some lakes, some wetlands, some open spaces, in addition to our park system. So, for example, on the natural areas side, we're just at about 12,000 acres that have been permanently preserved now. Some spectacular, some what are called scientific and natural areas. I mean, the top 1% of the oak savannas along the Pine Bend Bluffs overlooking the Mississippi River. We've got spots like that. These magical places that are why people want to work here and live here and raise a family here.
When they do surveys about quality of life,
Oh,
what
yeah.
do homeowners, residents of places like Egan or Dakota County, what they think about? And usually parks come out near the top of the list, right up there with schools, quality of public education, but also the quality of the natural resources.
It is so true, and our parks
And
have
it
been,
drives up property values too.
It does. It
Yeah.
does. And our parks are magnificent. I mean, we largely, because the cities do such an extraordinary job of the active parks, the soccer fields, the playgrounds, and so forth. We're not anti-soccer field or anti-playground, but our parks are largely natural oriented. So Lebanon Hills is a jewel. I mean, that's the diamond in our crown. Almost 2,000 acres of a 5,000 acre park system on top of the 12,000 acres permanently preserved. And we know, we do these every 3 years. We do these residential surveys.
Right.
Always at the very top.
We always respond.
Parks and natural areas.
As I was saying to you before we began recording today, my wife Bonnie and I, we love going to Lebanon Hills Park. It's one of the few places I can imagine in the Twin Cities metro area. We're in the middle of a metro area of over 3 million people, but when you're in the middle of that park on the hiking trail around one of the lakes, you feel like you're in northern Minnesota.
Isn't
And
that great?
it's such an asset to have that here.
Yeah, you drive 10 minutes or ride a bike or walk 15 minutes and you're in Lebanon Hills, or you're at Thompson County Park in West St. Paul, or you're Shars Bluff or Spring Lake Park Reserve, Meesville Park Reserve, Lake Billsby. We've got these magnificent county parks. And that's the one thing, no offense to Lebanon Hills, but
Which is a city park, you were saying, city of
well,
Egan,
Lebanon
but the county
Hills.
maintains.
Lebanon Hills is actually it's a regional park that we cooperate between us and the whole metro area. There's a
okay.
handful of these all around the metro, and we're blessed with having 4 or 5 of them here in Dakota County. In addition, our county park that this county is solely responsible for is Thompson Park up in West St. Paul. But all of the others, we get some funding from the Metropolitan Met Council and through the state that goes into these terrific regional parks. It's entirely maintained by the county. But we're able to access some funding that helps us preserve them.
Very good. I want to ask you about an issue that's been in the news a little bit lately, the Pine Bend landfill expansion. What's going on?
Well, Pine Bend is currently the largest landfill in Minnesota, and they want to get a little larger. We are doing so now. We recycle. Dakota County residents are terrific. Recycled more than half of the garbage or more than half of the things that they throw away is recycled. But some of it is still going into landfills. And it just so happens that the largest one is in the southern part of Inver Grove, near the Egan-Rosemont border. That's Pine Bend Landfill. Used to be a Superfund site. Actually, when I got elected mayor of Inver Grove, when I still had dark hair, it was a Superfund site.
They did some remediation.
Oh,
there.
goodness.
Yeah.
We went through a battle, Steve, and I don't mean to fight old battles, but it took about 7 or 8 years. We got it taken off the federal Superfund list. There was a clay liner that put so it captures any of the water that goes through. Also captures the methane now that goes up into the air and turns that into energy. So there's lots of positive things that are coming out of it in spite of it being landfill. I don't think anybody's real keen on a landfill, but it's one of those things that's a necessary thing to have in society, I guess.
Is there a projection of when the landfill is expected to fill up?
Yeah. They think at the current pace, it's about 3-4 years. Takes them out to about 2030. It all depends on how fast you and Bonnie throw stuff away, I guess. The better job that we do of recycling, and that's why Dakota County has such an enhanced, aggressive effort to try to engage people in recycling, is the more that we recycle, the less goes into landfill. But they want to do an 87-foot vertical expansion. Footprint will remain exactly the same. They just want to go a little bit higher.
So it's not a wider area, it's just going to go higher.
Right, and that will, if that's approved, that takes them, again, it depends on how fast people throw things away, but that takes them out another decade or 15 years.
Very good. I want to ask you about the subject of cannabis, marijuana. The Minnesota legislature has legalized adult use of recreational marijuana. Cities and counties across Minnesota are currently in the process of adopting local ordinances to regulate this. What is Dakota County doing in this process, or is this really a matter for cities to be dealing with? Does the county have a role as well?
We have a little bit of a role, but keep in mind that the cities are actually responsible, the incorporated cities, so Egan, Inver Grove, Rosemont, Burnsville. So forth. They actually will adopt and are adopting their own individual city ordinances within the parameters of what the state legislature is allowing them to do.
Yeah.
We're responsible for the unincorporated areas in terms of the ordinances. The unincorporated are, anything south of that. So it's a pretty modest area. It's not something that, I shouldn't say we're unconcerned about it, but for us, it's not quite the focal point that it has been for because the cities are sort of under the gun that they've got to get these ordinances
Seemed to have been
adopted.
a bigger issue in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And recently there was a Ramsey County District Court decision that stopped the planned cannabis license pre-approval lottery.
Yeah.
So one of the questions, maybe I'll save this for a city official when they come on, how will that affect new ordinances that will be coming into place to deal with this?
Yeah, because it's making no difference to us.
Yeah, to the county.
Right.
Very good.
And I'm glad it's not. It's one of those, we got so much on our plate, Steve, as it is, that I'm happy to leave that one for the cities.
Glad to leave a little for the city to do. Joe, I want to ask you about the Veterans Memorial Greenway in Dakota County. Tell us about this project.
Well, so what a lot of folks don't know is that Dakota County is home to the second largest number of veterans anywhere in Minnesota. A little over 22,000 veterans live here in Dakota County, yet we have no county memorial that recognizes their service. And so we saw an opportunity we're also doing a greenway, a trail, that will stretch between our busiest park at Lebanon Hills Park in Eagan to our busiest greenway. Our busiest trail is the Mississippi River Greenway that overlooks the Mississippi. It's about 5 miles, a little over 5 miles. It will connect the two, and from a pedestrian safety, bicyclist safety.
Is this going to be a paved trail?
It's a paved trail that that runs between the two, but it also provides a safe crossing of Highway 3, a safe crossing of Highway 52 and 55, and also a safe crossing of an active rail line.
Will that be with bridges over those roads?
Bridges and underpasses. So there was an underpass that just was completed. That's where we held a ribbon cutting for the first phase. There's an underpass now that goes beneath Rich Valley Boulevard, which is a uniquely challenging place to walk or ride a bike or in a safe fashion. So we've now got an underpass that goes under there. So. And the neatest thing about it, though, is we invited a bunch of veterans to be the ones that actually cut the ribbon for us. They participated in the design. There's going to be 8 memorial nodes sprinkled along the 5 or 5.5 mile corridor, recognizing MIA, recognizing those that have been killed in action, yellow ribbon families. It's a really neat, moving sort of project that people will enjoy.
And I assume the veteran service organizations would be pretty excited about this too. They have this type of recognition memorial.
They're not just excited; they've been a key part. We've had veterans helping with the design and the plans, so it's been a wonderful partnership with both them as well as our local cities that have helped with it, and then some funding that came through the federal government, state government.
Joe, we're down to less than 2 minutes. I'm saving the best for last, maybe not. I want to ask you about what you identify in your newsletter as the Sanimax saga. What is Sanimax and what is the controversy, very briefly?
That's definitely not saving the best for last. That's saving the stinkiest for last.
It's an issue of odor.
So Sanimax, now in fairness, Sanimax takes the remains of animal products and they turn them into a usable product.
Right.
Tannins,
this is in South St. Paul, right?
It's in South St. Paul. It's right near what I used to call the Stinky Bridge. When I was a kid, the 494 bridge, the Dakota Bridge that goes over the Mississippi River. And they take this stuff, and unfortunately, it kind of stinks. And they'll tell you this, they haven't done a very good job of preventing that from moving up into the atmosphere. And it spreads all through South St. Paul and across the river in Inver Grove.
Not very pleasant for residents, I suppose.
Not very pleasant at
for
all.
anybody.
No,
yeah.
no. And so they've been in the process trying to clean that up. I think they're making some headway on it. But in the wintertime, it tends not to be too bad. It's when people start to open their
in the
windows
spring,
in the
summer.
So
folks
we'll
in
know
South
more
St.
in the
Paul,
summer.
they can hang on and hope for
fingers are crossed.
less odious air, shall we say,
Indeed.
in the future.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's great. Joe Atkins, Chair of the Dakota County Board of Commissioners, longtime public servant. Thank you for the work that you do on behalf of the people of Dakota County. We very much appreciate it. And thank you for coming on Access to Democracy today to share with our viewers recent work on the county board. And thank you to all of our viewers of our program for your support of Access to Democracy. We look forward to seeing you in the new year of 2025. Thank you.